always been a very kind of, what can I say, diverse listener of music. Like I really like a wide range of expressions or genres, if you will. But Norwegian folk music is something that I actually enjoyed for quite some time. And I mean, I went to like university and stuff to get a bachelor's degree in musicology, and a part of that was actually going to like an institute that only does Norwegian folk music, and to kind of stay there for like a residency for a few like was it a week? I think it was only a week, but still. So I mean, the folk music thing has been in my life for quite some time, and again, it's a big part of our cultural heritage in Norway. So when you're dealing with music, you will inevitably end up dealing with this kind of music as well. But I always kind of felt like, I don't know, I was a bit afraid, I think, a bit intimidated by taking on that because it's like a traditional thing. There's tradition involved, and like as soon as there's tradition involved, very often people get like protective. And I just wanted to make sure that I was ready to do it in a way that I felt was worthy of the heritage and of the people that I had heard perform these pieces performing, but still like, taking it to be my own and perform it in a way that I feel expresses me as well as the original, the piece. So it's been something that's been there for a while, but I just haven't kind of had the balls, I guess, to do until recently. But then I was just like, I need to do it now. I think that works sometimes when you are in a have a creative expression. That sometimes you get these like pangs of this is what I need to do right now. And I think it's important to follow that because it's kind of, I see inspiration as kind of like this stream that speaks through you, and it's really important not to block it if there's something specific coming up. So that's what I did. I just decided now is the moment. I definitely see this influencing um, the next record, but not in the way you would think. The next record doesn't sound as folky by any means as Ega Framand does. But I noticed that it has influenced the way that I want to produce the next record. Because Ega Framand, I made it like, I wanted to remain raw and kind of not to overproduce, because the Norwegian folk music very often was like recorded in a very like shitty way, and just with musicians that might not have been virtuoso on the instruments. Some of them definitely were really, really good, but it was a bit more like raw and rough. So what I did is I went to a church that I have a connection to in Oslo, and I recorded on my own. And the concept was to record things without clip tracks, so without any kind of rhythm or set fixed frame, just like letting it kind of flow the way it needed to. And also trying not to record like umpteen takes, because it's very easy, and the way that we work in the digital world, to do like 50 vocal takes. So I tried to keep it a bit more simplistic, a bit more direct in expression. And I'm feeling that this is something I'm going to carry into the next record. I already have like, for example, one piece that has absolutely no time. It's just floating. And I also want to try to keep that rawness of like capturing something in the moment, and not the perfection lies in the imperfect, and that's something that's very cliche to say, but it's really true. And in this day and age when we kind of always strive for perfection, and we have the tools to be able to create something that is technically perfect in all ways, and it very often loses soul. So trying to, it's so funny, like when you're developing as an artist, I feel like you work in a way that's like you get closer and closer to so-called perfection. And then maybe as you get more experience, you kind of want to go away from it again, because you feel like maybe this is getting too, uh, tampered with or meddled with. So yeah, and I think melodically there'll definitely be some folk influences on the next record, but it's not going to sound like Ega Framans. That was a special project. I might want to do something similar again. I might have recorded some stuff already for another one like that, but it's not going to be for the next album.
Yeah, okay.
Future projects. There's so many in my phone. I have this project list, and there's just like so many things I want to do. So much to do, so little time. I think that I definitely have tools in my music, or like certain parts in my music that are definitely inspired by black metal. Because I was kind of late into the black metal game. Actually, I wasn't like, I grew up as a teenager and got into all of the original bands like Bathory or Marduk or all this kind of stuff. It kind of came later on for me. It kind of got harder and harder as I got older, and then it reached a point, and I just kind of then went like, oh yeah, I'm gonna listen to absolutely all genres in the world, including like rap and country and all this stuff that has nothing to do with metal. So definitely, um, black metal has been in my influences, but I never, as I said, I never set out to be like, oh, Sylvain is a metal project, or let alone a black metal project. I just kind of like for example, the tremolo guitars, typically black metal. This is something that you can say is works with this genre. The screams, blast beats, stuff like that. But it's not like, again, something I like kind of. It wasn't a conscious choice. more or less it's kind of just a part of the mixture of the stuff that I like that came out through me into my music. So, and why people from the scene can connect with Sylvain, I think it is because there's a bit of the same atmosphere and emotion in my music that you can find in black metal. Even if black metal sometimes can be way harsher, or maybe even more like, with Dark Sound being more like rock and roll style than more ethereal or like more grand, like for example, bands like Emperor. I think there's still this like connection with nature in the music. At least I hear this a lot when I listen to black metal, and you definitely have this in Sylvain as well. There's um there's a certain emotion to it. There's a certain um melancholy to it as well that I think also can be found as Sylvain. Kind of coldness, I would say, as well. So I can understand that there's some like emotive links there, and there's some kind of atmospheric links that makes that I think that Sylvain can speak to people from different kinds of music subcultures, because it does have connections with many of them. That's why I find it hard when people ask me what genre is Sylvain. I'm kind of like, I don't really know. Like, it's a weird bastard child of all kinds of weird genres. So, but that also means that it can speak to people across different, like across the board, like across different genres. So I think this is why people in corpse paint will still stand in front of me uh, when I'm playing all alone my super intimate stuff and cry, because it makes them feel. Maybe it helps them unlock something inside them, but it's still linked to the music that maybe, gets them pumped.
We are,
I'm very naive, I would say, in some ways, when it comes to art, because I feel like art is like, it's the language of the soul. If it's music, if it's visual arts, if it's writing. And I understand intellectually, I know that we need a business around art as well. And we have created a societal system that is driven by, like earning money, spending money, and that so forth. I get that. But it's just, I don't think about that aspect when I make albums. I make albums because I want to tell a whole story. Sometimes one song can tell a whole story, and that's great. But I love the movement and the journey that a full album takes you on. So is it the most relevant format for today? Yeah, no, I would say no, probably not. But it doesn't really. Um, I don't know. For now, I still feel like this format is a nice way to like take people away for a certain amount of time and let them just kind of live in an alternate universe for a little while, to just forget maybe reality and be taken on a journey somewhere else more maybe than just one song can do. So, but what I like to do is I like to have all of my songs on the records obviously function on their own and they hold their own universe. But at the same time, if you listen to the whole record, it takes you on a journey that makes like a cohesive, makes sense kind of, red thread to the whole thing kind of experience. So as much as I know that there's a business side to this and it has to be, I try not to think about this at all when I'm creating, because I feel like it could start to kind of mess with stuff a little bit and maybe the expression wouldn't be as authentic. So maybe not. The album isn't maybe not that relevant because we are very much in the consumer market also for art now. But yeah, fuck that. Season Mist had never added pressure to me. They have been extremely uh I guess trusting of me. Like they have never questioned my creative process. Actually, I'm the one that usually kind of puts a bit of pressure on myself to finish within a certain deadline, because that's the business side of my brain that fights with the naive side that doesn't want to listen to each other always. But I know how like it's very again non-romantic to talk about that, but how like an album cycle works and how ideally you should have things happening. So I'm the one that would rather keep this in mind, but the label has always been very, yeah, well, just when you're ready, we're here. So they have never put any pressure on me to say like, oh, you need to finish the record within so long time. It needs to have this many songs. It needs to be this. Never, ever. I have had a little bit of fights when it comes to cover because I don't like putting my logo on the cover artwork. And I understand from a marketing perspective, it's like a nightmare. I get that. Yeah, there you go. The AF from on cover, it also doesn't have that. But it's just because I always thought of cover art as like an art piece that I would like to like be able to put on my wall if I want. Because visual art is something that inspires me a whole lot. So sometimes it works with the logo, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I just would like the picture to speak for itself. And I do get that that's a bit of an issue. Actually, most of my covers don't have the logo. My third album, I made an exception because I thought it worked in the whole like the whole illustration. It worked with the thing, but for all the other ones, actually, I was just like, No, we're not doing that. So they've been very good with like letting me have my creative say and not putting any pressure on it. So it's been definitely easier in the sense that, of course, I have a team now. Doing everything on your own is definitely a lot. And I mean, I'm already carrying too much on my shoulders and not being able probably to do everything perfectly because I'm not expert in all the different fields of the music business. So yeah, having a label has been very good. And of course, like they distribute all around the world, something that would be difficult to do myself. The promotional team, like all different like little bits and the people that collect the rights. And there's so many people involved in just one record. It's like the team is crazy. So definitely it's a nice thing to have a team. I have my drummer and my bass player Max and Doyon. They're from France, different parts of France, and then my lovely guitar player Florian is from Germany. So and our sound technician for this tour is also French. Usually we have one from Switzerland, so it makes my life a little complicated because having to move everyone around from different places in the world, rehearsing is complicated. I would be very sad if I had to leave either of those formats behind. As I've come to realize, I had this really need to start doing these solo shows. The thing that's special with these solo shows is the fact that they scare the living bejesus out. No, but they really hold me accountable to what I'm doing, both vocally and with my guitar and all the little bits and elements, because it's so vulnerable. It's so stripped down. There's nothing to hide behind. It's really, these shows are very much like serving my soul on a platter to the audience and just go, have at it. Whatever you do with it as you want. So it's really a different kind of catharsis. I also very much like that with the solo shows. I always feel like the kind of the line between audience and on stage is a bit more like blurred. So it's a bit more of a direct communication between me and who's there, and it feels more intimate in a way, regardless if the rooms are big or not where I play. Um, so yeah, I just like love this intimate feeling with the audience that we're just. It kind of gives me this feeling we're all of this together, and I don't know, it's like making yourself or putting yourself in a very vulnerable situation seems to allow people to connect with you a bit easier. So I really like this about the solo formats, and it's a whole different kind of catharsis. It's a whole different kind of yeah. Again, like you scare yourself. Maybe it's scary because you have no one to support or lean yourself on. But it's definitely emotionally a very rewarding thing to do. With the band, on the other hand, is a more of like a what can I say, energetic and more like of a powerful catharsis in the sense that it's just like really the energy that's emitted is like it's like it's a bigger thing. Also, having my team with me on stage like feels really nice to. It feels like us against the world kind of thing, even if it's not like we're not an aggressive group by any means, but it's a whole different vibe, and it just I don't know. It makes me want to like move much more. It makes me more energetic on stage, which is yeah, usually those shows make me it's funny, after solo shows, I usually feel very kind of quiet and just kind of want to take a step back because I really feel like every single time I do a solo show, I really leave a piece of my soul in that room behind. And it takes me a bit of time to try to kind of not rebuild, but like, I guess accept or like deal with that. And with the band, it's like more of like an energetic release and like making I can see in real time that it's really like making people move. Like, it makes people smile. It makes people cry. It makes people feel so much. So I don't know. It's just it's two very different things, but I really appreciate both of them. And yeah, it's I feel very blessed that I can do both, and I hope that I can continue to do both in the future as well. It was like in around my bass player's hometown, so there's a lot of family and stuff. So actually was a highlight yesterday. Probably will be from this tour because it was a special day for my bass player and we got to meet his family and everything. So I've done a couple of vocal clinics before. I've done some online, I've done some in person, and I've also been teaching both distorted voice and clean voice for quite some years now. And it's a bit of a mix. Sometimes it's fans that are kind of excited to be able to get in like a one-on-one space with you, or like just get a bit closer and maybe they're fans in the sense that they just want to be able to do the same thing as you, like kind of like with their voice, sort of. I mean, every voice is different, but they want to try to. take a stab at like this kind of technique. Sometimes it's people that are like more just curious about the vocals aspect of it, especially the story voice. A lot of people are fascinated by that because um the clean voice we've had like centuries almost, or like at least many decades of technique, and we kind of know it's kind of tried and true methods of how to do this in a way that's safe and how to produce different sound in a safe way. But the distorted voice is still a bit more, it's a bit more mysterious because you will do this kind of sound in front of an opera singer and they might say that you're destroying your voice. I literally, what? Not even a week ago, I was at my ENT looking at my vocal cords and he's like, they're in impeccable shape. They look lovely, such a great anatomy, all is good. So I can tell you I've been doing this for many years now. And obviously it hasn't caused any damage. Knock on wood. So a lot of times people are fascinated by this kind of vocal use because there's not as much material out there, and a lot of material are they kind of contradict each other. So um, it's a bit of a different mix of people. I will see how it is at this master class. It will be interesting. I also realize that I hope that people understand English because I will not be doing so, but usually it's I would say mainly it is people that already know about my music and they come to me because they realize that they can also learn. They're a musician themselves, or sometimes they're just fans and are curious about their voice. So yeah, I've learned after a little while now doing this. There aren't really any rules to the madness. I kind of every album unfolds a bit differently. Every song unfolds a bit differently. Every project, it being my project or working for other people, like as guest vocalist or lyricist or whatever, it all usually kind of takes its own path to get and come to be. So, but for me, I see that I have a tendency to start with guitar. That's usually or melody or like a vocal, the main melody of the vocals, and usually that or the rhythm guitar, like the main, like the meat or like the bone structure of the guitar work. Um, and it's very unsexy. I just play unplugged electric guitar. I really have to stop doing that. I should really just plug my plug cortex into it. But up until this point, it's been very much just me with my unplugged electric guitar. The sounds like, well, not great. Just jamming out and trying to get the ideas that are in my mind out through that, or sometimes just playing around and see what comes up, what wants to come out. So very much like that. Lyrics are complicated. Usually, or like if at least for me, I make music about subjects that I find a bit tricky to put into words, and things that maybe feel too personal or uh, difficult at least to deal with in a verbal way. So you make music to try to release these emotions or get an expression or like an outlet for it. But then obviously you have to write the lyrics for it, and also you have to talk about the songs afterwards. It's kind of like a trap. So the lyrics are, I always find them a bit complicated to write things that don't sound trite, or they don't sound cheesy, or you don't keep repeating yourself and use the same vocabulary, this kind of stuff. So I find that sometimes I'll write almost like a whole batch or like a whole thing of lyrics with different paragraphs, try to fit it into song, but usually it comes after the music for me. Because the music is kind of the pure expression of the emotion, and it's like, okay, how do I put words on this? So, but I've also had lyrics where I be like, oh, I think it would work if I did something like this. But usually it's the last step of the process.
Gotcha. Interesting.
I love writing them too, by the way. I do really love to write lyrics because I love poetry. I just find it's a very demanding part of the process because it's harder to get it right than maybe some musical parts. I have like a note on my phone with all kinds of lyrics where I'll just like write stuff if there's a sentence or word or anything like that. And sometimes I will just, or a lot of times when I'm traveling, because we travel a lot and we have a lot of waiting, I'll just sit and I'll just like reread the stuff, and sometimes something will pop up, and sometimes it'll take me forever to be able to finish just like one chorus because I just can't find the way that it works rhythmically with the syllables, but also just something that sounds good and also has some kind of proper meaning. Because sometimes you see lyrics that are like, this doesn't really mean anything. So yeah, it's a bit more demanding, I would say, I think.
Yeah.
I was very young when I moved to Oslo, so I was yeah within the first year and a half of my life. So I can't really say I have like a strong connection, but of course I have it to my dad because my dad's from San Diego as well. Hence why half Norwegian, half American. So yeah, I will always have a special place in my heart for California in general. But of course, I went to San Diego uh, in 2022 when I was on tour there. And yeah, visiting like, El Cajon where my dad grew up and stuff like that was really, really cool. So yeah, it always have a special place in my heart, but I don't feel like I can say that I have been a local ever, so to speak. I feel like every time I've moved around or like I've lived in a different place or been influenced by different places, it definitely colors my music. And I feel like it was very clear to me personally, and looking back at it now, like after the fact, hindsight is always 2020. Looking back on, for example, my second record, Wistful, which I wrote mainly in that time frame when I was moving to Paris. I never moved like 100%, but I lived kind of between Paris and also, but I was spending maybe more time in Paris for a while at least. And I can just like really hear that city in that record because it just was very, it was kind of isolating, moving to a place where the language is totally different and there's not like a big will to speak English in France, unfortunately. Or not, maybe not unfortunately, but it's just a fact. So, and yeah, it's just, I can hear that that person that wrote that album was really lonely. So definitely has colored the records, maybe still more in like an emotional way than like, I would say, I don't know, that you can hear let's say living in the middle of like in the center of Paris, you would think that maybe it would come out as more urban or something. But yeah, maybe more in a kind of introverted like loneliness came out in that record. Adam's Line was also written between Paris and Oslo, my third record, and I feel like that one is very much like a kind of outside critique of society, going, "What are we doing with each other? Why are we so mean to each other? Why are humans so cruel to each other?" And I feel like that also came from living in Paris, which is a fairly harsh city in terms of. I came from Oslo, which is a city with three people, even if it's the capital. So Paris feels more hectic. It feels more heavy, even if it's not at all the worst city I visited for that. But yeah, the place definitely has an influence, I would say. But yet, I guess that's Stockholm syndrome. You can call it that because when I go back to Paris, it still feels like home. So there you go. I understand more than I can speak. I have this like mental blockage, I think, where as soon as someone starts to speak French to me, I just like this scared child in me comes out and just go, baguette. That's it. But yeah, I understand French mostly, and I can still like I do a lot of Franglish with my friends, like where they speak French to me and I'll reply in English. So from the outside, people are always like, "What's going on with this?" So yeah, there's something with the Nordics, there's something. Not to try to say we're extra special and that. Well, we are, but maybe for the boys. We're all cold and like cold hearted. No, but there is a thing. Like I feel like and I can hear that if it's from black metal to like artists like Aurora, like that's an amazing pop artist. There's this kind of glacial coldness, nature connection, atmosphere that I feel you can find little traces of throughout like all kinds of different music. And her being from the Faroe Islands, this is still very relatable to a place like Norway. Um, so in this sense, we might be inspired by some of the same things, actually. And this could also be why there's definitely some common elements. Um, but I know for her that she's much more, she's not been very familiar with the metal scene, for example, but she kind of just gravitated towards a more dark pop thing that then appealed to the metal scenes. This is like kind of a new thing for her. Um, but, uh, but yeah, I absolutely love her to bits. She's the best human being and she's such an amazing artist as well. We're going to Australia next year together, and I'm like, well, counting the days until I get to see her again and get to hear her play every night because it's always a pleasure. So I'm sure that she will influence me in the future. I don't know if I can, if I'm not going to say the same. I can't, no, I'll let her answer that question. But I just know that the match was very good and we fell into a really nice rhythm and we became pretty good, solid, like friends. And yeah, she's a I became a very big fan of her, and I think she would say the same. So yeah, lucky to have had our paths cross.
Nei, lengta til lysets
That's one of my
stad.
dreams because being so visually influenced, I definitely that's one of my bucket list items, is to be able to actually have my music kind of like set the atmosphere and set the scene for something in a movie. Or my song Nova was actually used, I believe it was, yeah, it was Nova, in a documentary about free diving that was made in, I want to say, New Zealand. And it was so funny because that's a very specific topic that I had no like real connection to personally. But I just remember when I got the clip where Nova was used, and like seeing the cinematography and all that, I was just like, I was very touched by it. 'Cause it's just, I don't know, there's something really special about that, and how, for example, if you watch a horror movie and there's no music, it's such a impactful thing. So this goes to show that sound really, really influences how we perceive a scene. And that's why I think it's really interesting. And I would love to actually commissioned write something for visuals at some point. So maybe one day it would be a dream come true if I could do that.
Om jeg ber deg.
I've had to be rescued. So it's usually it's my bass player that comes to my rescue. Sometimes I get stuck on like the hi-hat, or, I'll get stuck in his bass, or I'll get stuck in my guitar. 100%. Like, I can tell you the amount of times where I had to like leave the stage, and then my hair got stuck in my strap locks in my guitar, and I was like ripping my hair out. Like, I swear it's thinner now. It didn't used to be this thin, but I swear it's thinner. After 3 years of heavy touring, I swear to God, not only am I losing my hair from stress, but I'm also thinning it out just by like ruining it on my guitar. So yes, it gets in the way of my playing and singing. I also get suffocated sometimes by it, because if I like yesterday night in the tune on this tour, it was very hot. Like a small room, it was sold out. It was really, really hot. And as soon as I start moving my hair around, sometimes it just like clings to my face, and it was like, I'm gonna die. I'm just gonna die. This is it, folks. I'm gonna die. Just gonna inhale my hair or just be suffocated by. So yes, it does get in the way. So sometimes I just want to shave it all off and, Sinead O'Connor the shit. But, I do like it as well. But it does get in the way.
Der vil jeg hamna. Jeg heim vil komma.